Coming in?
Going out, isn't it?
No, it's going out.
Going out.
Mine's going out.
I'm trying to throw us there, Phil.
G'day. Our course starts in the front of the clubhouse on Tapari Strand, Te Peninsula, and winds its way upriver to the northwestern motorway bridge and back. The start-finish line is from the upriver pontoon support to the white marker and the mangroves on the other side of the river. The video races are all on the outgoing tide, and you can see how much flow there is as I pass these buoys. There's a significant amount of drag on the hull of the boats that we have to paddle against. Even just staying on the start line requires paddle strokes. The video is a composite of 3 races, one recorded from the back of the boat, the other 2 facing forwards. The third video comes in towards the end. 3, 2, 1, go. In both race starts here, I'm in the wrong part of the river. The maximum flow is down the middle, so I'm fighting the maximum resistance. Not so bad on the rear camera because we all started there together, but the front race will cost me dearly because the rest started on the sides. The rear view has the speed and pace stats as well as the map, and the first lesson to learn here is we always, except for Phil, always start too fast. With 4 kilometre tide speed against us, we are effectively hitting 18 or so kilometres per hour, and that's way too fast for us lot. No way we're going to keep that pace up for the entire race. The sensible move would, like Phil, be to get up to pace. That puts you in a good position relative to the pack, and then that you can maintain for the entire race. But that's not this group. Cool. As someone, I'm sitting on my wash, awake and Paul following my towel to shelter from the flow. Donovan is just leading me to the right. With the mid-river start, my goal at this stage of the race is to hit the inside curve bank out of the main flow. So I'm going to switch to the front camera here, and you can see I'm just making a straight line for that inside of the curve. So the flow is going to be a lot less there. In fact, sometimes you could even get a back eddy, back wash helping you along. So you really want to sit as close to that edge as possible without running the ground or hitting your paddle on the ground. And you can see the rest of the group that are on the other bank. They're going to cut across, but this stage, aside of being K2, they've got way too much of a lead on me. I'll try my best to catch up on the back of the wake, but I ain't going to work too well. Okay, in this particular race we gave a few of the slower paddlers a head start, but not much of one, as you'll see in a second. We're already passing the first back marker, so we get a bit impatient with starts and want to get up and going. So, but what we see here is that same guy is sitting too far out into the flow. I think you've got to see the error of his ways and cut across. But yeah, he's very sitting just working against a lot of water. Whereas if you look at where we are, we're just sitting hard against that bank. You see the speed settle right down to 9-10 kilometres an hour, so that's more a reasonable steady pace for us, and probably we're going to sit for most of the way. Remembering that we're losing 2 to 4 kilometres per hour to the tide, because at the edge it's going to be a lot less. At the lower end of that range. Here we can see Simon's pogies, custom made, plastic bags, that worked really well. I suspect. I don't know why we all the rest of us haven't copied them. Paul's sitting behind me. He's had a bit of a rough few weeks, so I think he's going to settle back a bit and save the heavy racing for another day. And you can see Donovan starting to appear in the shot now, so he's getting in a better position because he doesn't want to be sitting out in that flow leading. He wants to either be on my wash, or if he's going to lead, either where I am or preferably better on the bank. But yeah, sitting on my wash is going to be the place to be. Just better into the middle of more of the wash you're hitting. Okay, you can see Paul dropping off a bit now. Goal in the distance, still plugging along. We're getting close to the 1K mark. We're just passing another Anthony, one of the early starters. So just cruising past them. Sitting in the right place this time though, sitting hard against those mangroves. Saving that effort. Just about to hit a kilometre now. Wintertime racing, so we get that sunset, except for in the middle of winter when it's actually dark, or very low sunset into the darkness. These ones we get to finish while it's still light, but you get the sunset going down in the hills there. It's gonna be pretty cool. But still focusing on the job, so we maintain that triangle. With me at the front, Donovan sitting there on my wash, and Simon sitting there slightly on the side. Starting to think about when we're going to do the crossover. So if you look at the map, we're about to swing the other way, the other side of the river, or the corner, right hand corner. So here I am looking at come around this corner and then see where we're going to cross over. Again, we want to avoid that flow as much as possible, so we're going to make that crossover as quick as possible, and jump in the shadows on the other side. See that K2 and Nikolai have got well ahead of me. Tried to make the most of their wash, to try to catch up. So you can see just in front of me is a few waves from their boats. So trying to use those as much as possible to try to pull me over and catch up. I'm probably too far behind, and at this stage I'm getting too obliquely as well. But yeah, so I'm rushing across to the other side as they have, and then into that shelter again. Now I haven't gone hard against the side there, because as you'll see in a second, Simon's actually on my right hand side, and it's a bit of a gentleman's race, and he's already too far ahead for me to cut him off, which is probably what you do if you're being full on. But so here he is, and I guess the other thing we've probably decided together at this point without saying anything is that the only way we've got any chance to get up to the K2 and Nikolai is to work together. So now that he's in the lead, I get a bit of a break, as in we get to put slightly less effort into keeping that pace. He's on the inside, so he's got the less resistance, and I can just sit there and take have a bit of a breather, and do some work, and then when I feel better, I'll take the lead again. And if we zigzag like that, we get the starts to catch up. So come around Poo Corner now, so Poo Pipe is to our left there. The sewer pipe that runs out, so hence the attractive name. And going hard around this corner. And then now again getting ready for our next crossover. Still sitting at that 10-11k per hour. Just a steady pace. Possibly pulled across this one a bit too early. Leave that one a bit later. Normally. But you see, now back in the lead, Simon's sitting on my wash again. So yeah, I've had my breather and they do the work again. Shortly about the 2k mark. See Phil and Paul sitting there working their way up. And Anthony. So we started off slow, but not going to write him off at this stage. He's doing it, working here to catch up. And the sunset's still watching us too. This 2k mark. Big recent slip on the left hand side. I was storm a couple of months ago. Soon after they removed all the scrub from this cliff face, it just came down. So there's actually trees in the river there. Back to the race, we are crossing back over, so just going through those S's and back to this other side. Now for those getting this race, this corner quite a bit dodgy for a while after the anniversary day storms a couple of years ago. There's a lot of sticks, logs sitting under there, snags. You see a bit here on the right. Most of them are gone, but it's still a little bit of a dodgy patch, so you just kind of got to give it a little bit of a broad berth. Run it now, and off we go. Big long right hand turn now for most of the rest of the way to the motorway bridge. So just mechanically ploughing and sitting on that inside as much as possible. Make sure it's Phil working his way up at the back there. Then go. You ought to get the benefit of some of that back wash, some of our wash back there. Not as much so as Simon and Donovan are getting on mine. See Phil sitting hard against that bank, so if you're on your own, just sit as hard into it as possible. I'm sitting out because we've got Donovan inside, and like I say, we're working together a bit, and also it's kind of hard to cut somebody off on there halfway down the boat. just as valid positioning would be me hard against it, Simon to the outside and Donovan just behind me, but that forces him to have to actually cross over my wash to get back on the lead, so it's kind of the most efficient setup. On the front inset video there, I'm not sure whether Simon's sitting on my left or my right. I've got a feeling he's on my left. We'll find out soon enough because he crosses over again. Okay, you can see the K2 and of Donovan and Julio and Nikolai sitting on the K1 behind them. Got some good ground on us, and we came down to the top turn, so there's the motorway bridge there. Simon's now taking the lead, Yang, they're working together. This is a bit contentious, this one, whether it's best to cut across, given that the turn is on the other side, so you can cross over to the left bank and then back over to the right, or you can stick to the right hand side the whole way around the outside of the corner and just stay out of the flow altogether. I think the consensus is to go this way, but if you look at the same in the reverse camera, I think you'll see Phil makes quite good ground by sticking to the right hand side. As we get to the turnaround and I start paying attention to the speeds, you'll see the difference that the tide makes. So we're stuck against the sides, trying to stay out of the tide as much as possible, out of that flow. Once we turn around, of course, it's going to work in our favour when we do the opposite and try to stay in the flow. Not unusual to have a sprint for the turnaround, partly just to get the best positioning. So want to try to be as close to the buoy, so if you're on the wrong side of somebody, you're going to get pushed around the outside of them. You often have to have a sprint to get that positioning, and there's also that psychological advantage of getting into the corner and out first. Turned slightly early here. I felt like the K2 turned early, so I decided to turn early as well. And yeah, round we go. Watch the shallows on the far side here. A lot of the time you're not going to run into it. Here's it from the back, so this is the same cornering. And here we see the speed difference. So now we're already at 12k an hour, so before we were doing 10-11, now I'm going to do 12-14, and we're going to sit in the middle there. Phil's going to catch up, sitting back there, so we'll see how we go. Straight down the middle, a little bit to the sides on the corners, but not hard against them, so yeah, don't want to go wide around the corner, but you also want to get as much flow as possible. And again, working with Simon. Taking a bit of a breather. Not that we've lost ground at this stage on that K2. Russell. Taking the lead again. can see it's a pretty consistent crowd. We're sitting for a few weeks at a time. We continue the same vehicle, and there's a bit of a change around. Sitting 13, 14, 15k an hour. The time makes a huge difference. If it's rained heavily, even bigger. This is a freshwater flow that goes on top of the river. So yeah, a combination of tide and flow. That's the time to get some personal bests. Just after a heavy rain on a good outgoing tide, particularly after a king tides. Nothing changes much over a 6k race. You don't want too much. Pushing too early on, you don't want to bring yourself out. Everybody you gain on just going to catch up on you. We're just going to keep going with this. That's actually the turning buoy we've just passed. The problem is after the last storm, it floated downstream and got stuck. So we tried sort of recovering it back to the proper marking place. So it ain't budging, so we'll have to put a new one up. Getting close to finishing this bit of footage because the camera I'm using is actually got quite a short battery life. So it usually doesn't last out the whole race, but that's where I'll mix in the third race, which is the one that gets us to the finish. But in the meantime, we get some nice sunsets. As we come back around, about to hit the 4k mark, we get slippers down there on the next corner. But yeah, at this point we can quite unquote just enjoy the sunset and dig in as we up and pant away. Just for location purposes, that bank where the slippers on the left there, that's where the Waikato bathing station is. It's all in that part of the river. And about to come around and be facing back towards the peninsula next. Again, a tractably named Two Corner. Where the pipe sits. So you see we're a little bit on the right hand side of it, still seeing as much flow as possible, but not also going too wide around the corner. Heat being very late for the race, and yeah, now we're heading straight down, aiming for that tree, aim for the left hand corner there. There's an old scow sitting under those mangroves there, pretty much an entire length from that. Breakers there to the land. One ship has been, I think, deliberately sunk there. That is now part of the mangroves, part of the mud system. You can see it at low tide. Here we come around this corner. One thing to watch, there can be a big swirly on this corner. Because sometimes you cut it really quite tight to avoid it. Sometimes you go a little bit wide to sort of go through it. But just about here. And there's that big sunset. I think if you rear camera, there's still hanging in there. Made a bit of ground. Maybe right fell off. even on a bad start. He's a king of comebacks. But we are about to run out of that footage. And yeah, so I've switched in, so now I've got two front-facing ones. You can tell which one because there's Nikolai in the yellow there. So this one's from the other end of the season. And it's Nikolai at his left is Simon as we come around this corner. About to hit getting close to the 3K mark. And now we can talk about technique. Nikolai's technique far more conventional than Simon's. We've been watching past. Again, we're working together, same tide, pretty much, same river flow, same conditions. It shows how often we get these because we've pulled 3 videos together in the same footage. So it's going to be around about the end of this one. As you're getting close to the 5K mark, passing the old Windstone Wharf there. Simon again giving me a bit of a boost, giving me a chance to have a break. But we've long lost the K2 at this point. There we go, 5 kilometres. Last kilometre to go. So about the start point to start thinking about final positioning and getting ready for any sprint finish. Well, every sprint finish because I've never seen one that doesn't finish with a sprint. So here I am just again sitting and making the most of Nikolai's efforts. Although not too bad now that we're going with the tide, don't quite as the advantage sitting on somebody's watch going with the tide is going against. A little bit wide there. One thing I'm trying to do is avoid those splashes getting into the boat. I'm not wearing a skirt, that's what Nikolai isn't. So any water that ends up in the cockpit ends up in the boat, and by the end of a good race you get too many of those, you can be a few kilos of water in there, which can really impact the boat, especially trying to get the boat up and running. So you're taking a lot there. You watch Nikolai's legs, they're pumping away. I can explain to people how your stroke starts from the end of your foot. That you can see there that he's pushing each stroke, he's pushing all the way through his body from his feet. We've gone go quite out wide here. One of the things with this part of the road is we're past the Huru where the Huru connects, and that gives it an extra flow boost. So you go a little bit wide. It's probably a little bit harder to pick how wide to go. You certainly want to avoid the shallows as the tide goes out. On the right hand bank there, getting that flow from the middle and from the combined flow of the Henderson, Tiwai, Pereira and the Huru rivers. As you come into the corner here, and really this is now the final posturing before we start really putting the accelerator down, work out exactly when. Having that last 250 metres to the finish line, which we'll see any second now. or if you're like me in this case, kind of hanging on for dear life. This is going to be a classic Simon masterclass of somebody who's done this race so many times and knows exactly how to save it for the finish and when to load it and go. So there's his boat on the side there. Those overhanging trees, famously the stags that sit up in them always seem to poo when you go under them during a race like this, so we do that very carefully. Even in incoming tide, we'll often work our way around those. But here you go, see Simon's done doing his last minute sprint, taking that lead. Let's see who finishes this one off between the two of them. Good 20 years age difference, I think, between Simon and Nikolai. So it's the experience versus the whippersnapper. And I'm just getting towed to the end. Trying not to fall off that wash. I'm probably more worried that he's coming after me than trying to beat either of these two. There's the finish line just ahead there. Just about falling off. Got a bit of a burst in to get back on that wash. Make the most of it. There's the finish line. Classic for Simon. That's it. It's the 6K Waitemata Kino Motorsport Club race. Thanks for coming. Stay around for the outtake at the end.